This video is the first tutorial on how to make the GeoGloWS Hydroviewer web app with vanilla JavaScript. We won't use any JavaScript frameworks or Python frameworks to make this web app. In this video, we're going to set up the basic structure of the app. We will create the HTML and static files for the app, create a map with leaflets, use the Esri leaflet plugin to add the Geoglose layer to our map, and then we'll create some placeholders for map animation controls, which we'll modify in later videos. I'm going to use WebStorm, but any text editor or IDE will work fine. Let's start by making a new project. I'm going to title mine GeoGloWS Hydroviewer and VJS for vanilla JavaScript. Alright, so we're going to need to create an HTML file, which I'll call index.html. And I'll title my page while I'm here. This is the GeoGloWS Hydroviewer. And we're also going to need some CSS and JavaScript for our web app. So I'm going to organize those in the conventional static directory. And within that directory, I'm going to have a CSS folder, which contains my style sheet, which I'll call styles.css. And then I'm also going to need a JavaScript folder, which I will call JS. And I'm going to need one JavaScript file, which I'll call hydroviewer.js. Now we're going to use Leaflet and the Esri Leaflet plugin to create our web app. So we're going to need to go find the CDNs so that we can use those JavaScript files and style sheets in our web app. I'm going to need to open up a Chrome window, and I'll look for leaflets.js. And on their homepage, there's a download tab, so we'll go there. And there's the provided links to a style sheet and their JavaScript script tags for using hosted versions of Leaflet. I'll copy those and then come back over to WebStorm, and in my head beneath the title I'll paste those in, auto format that so it makes my code a little prettier. There we go. Now I'm also going to need the Esri Leaflet plugin later, so I'll get that now while we're collecting all of our style sheets and scripts. I can come back to my browser, and I'm going to need to find the Esri Leaflets JavaScript plugin. And the first link should take you to their documentation. It's esri.github.io/Esri Leaflet. But this is also going to move to a ArcGIS developer site soon, so this URL may change. But on their homepage, there's a download tab, and I can go to the first option for just the base Esri Leaflet functionality. We won't need any of these other plugins for now. I'll copy the script tag and then go back to WebStorm and paste that in. Now it's going to be very important that you get the Esri Leaflet plugin listed after the source leaflet plugin, or that source leaflet library. Since this is a plugin, it has to have the base leaflet functionality loaded first, and so the order of your script tags will matter. Now I'm also going to need to link the custom style sheets and Hydroviewer.js files, which I created a second ago. So I'm going to create a link. This is a style sheet, and the href for this is going to be under the static directory, then CSS, and styles.css. And to load in my JavaScript, I'll make a script tag. The source for that is going to be static JavaScript, and then hydroviewer.js. And then I can close my script tag. All right, and to make my map, I'm also going to need a div, and the ID will be map. And while we're here, I will also create a div where we will later add in all of our controls. And I'll call the class for this map controls. We haven't written any custom styles for this, but we will later add contents for the to both this div and to the styling for this class. All right, we've got most of our structure laid out here. We have a placeholder div for our map and for our controls to animate the map later. We've loaded in the style sheet for Leaflet, as well as the Leaflet JavaScript library and the Esri Leaflet plugin. And we've also loaded in our own custom style sheets and custom JavaScript. So that should be everything we need for now. But let's open up our index.html in a browser. And right now it looks blank. That is correct. Even though we've created the map div and the controls div, there's nothing in them for now. Let's open up the developer tools on Chrome. You can get there with Command Option I. And right now, we just want to look at the styling. I see right now that my body has a width of 1113, but a height of 0. And that's a problem. I want my body to take up the entire page, everything that's available. And if I go over to the farther right, I can see that my body also has margin around it. So let's go back to WebStorm. And I'm going to add some styling to the body tag. First thing I'll change is I want the margin to be 0. Save that and come back to my browser. This time when I hover over body, the width has increased by 16 pixels, the margin is gone, but the height is still 0. So let's go back to WebStorm, add in some more styles. I'm going to say position is absolute, and the width will be 100%, and the height will also be 100%. Make sure you save that. We'll go back to the browser and refresh. Now this time, when I hover over the body, you should see that the body is covering up the entire viewable area on your within your browser. So my height has not, or my width has not changed, but my height now goes the full height available in my browser. When I look at the map div and the map controls div, those both have heights of 0 still. They're not taking up any area. So I need to go give those heights also. I'm going to go back to my style sheets. I want the map to be, let's say, 85% of the height. We can always change this later. And I want the map controls div to have a height of 15%. And we can save that. Now, when I come back to my browser, if I hover over map, it does indeed have a height of 85%, and my map controls has a height of 15%. Great, we're now ready to add in contents to both of these divs. Let's do the map first. And the map is going to be created in JavaScript, so I'll open up hydroviewer.js, and I'm going to say const m equals l.map. And you can look up the documentation for this on the Leaflet's website if you would like. But it takes two options. One is the div where you want the map to get rendered to, and the other is an object or a dictionary or a JSON with options telling us some information about where to center the map, how the zoom should work, and different things like that. For now, since we're building a global viewer, I'm going to put the center at 0, 0. And then I'm going to put the zoom at 2. 1 is the least zoomed out, and depending on how you control it, you can zoom in to about 10 to 15. So 2 is not quite the most zoomed out, but it's going to be zoomed out enough to give us a global view. So I'll save this and go back to my browser and refresh. And this time I still see that nothing is there. When I look in the console, it says that the map container is not found. This is the problem with this is because we've listed our script tag after leaflet, so the leaflet code is not breaking. It's not getting mad at us for the l.map call. It's saying it can't find the map div. Now this leads to an error with the way that we've listed all of our script tags. Right now we load in the style sheets and we load in leaflet and Esri leaflet, but our Hydroviewer JavaScript code gets executed after that, and this is all done sequentially. So it tries to run our JavaScript code, but it hasn't gotten to the part where we create a map div yet. But since we want to keep our JavaScript in the head where it belongs, the way around this is we can add a defer argument to our script tag. And what that says is you can load all of this sequentially, load in a leaflet and Esri leaflet. You can also load this tag from this file path that we gave it, the static JavaScript Hydroviewer, but don't execute the code until you finish doing everything else in my HTML page. So now this code is going to get loaded, but it will wait to run it until after it's finished creating the map and the map controls divs. So now if I save this and go back, I can see that my leaflets container has been properly created. I can see the leaflet logo down here and the zoom controls, and my error is gone from the console. But we have nothing in the map still, so let's go back to our JavaScript and let's add a base map layer. I'm going to call this const OpenStreetMap layer, OSM layer. This is going to be l.tile layer. And the file path, or the URL rather, not file path, for where we're going to get the OpenStreetMap tile layer is https:// and then curly braces, put an S in there, .tile.openstreetmap.org /curly braces z /curly brace x /curly brace y .png, and then we need to do add to m and save. This l.tile layer goes out and fetches all of the images in the tile layer, but it's not rendered to the map unless we say .add to m, add to our map object that we created on the line before. So now I can save this, and if your page has not already auto-refreshed, you can press refresh and you should see a base map visible. You'll be able to zoom in and out here and see all the labels and all the other information that's on this base map. And now we're going to need to add the GeoGlows layer. So I'll create another variable which I'll call const Geoglose Layer. Now this is not going to be a normal tile layer. Our GeoGlows map service is provided by Esri on their Living Atlas. So I'm going to go back to my browser, search for ArcGIS Living Atlas, and it should take you to the Living Atlas homepage. You can search for GeoGlows right off the homepage, and you're going to find this one that's titled GeoGlows ECMWF Streamflow System. And this takes us to a page that talks about how the GeoGlows system works, some credits information. The part we're looking for is down here. There's a URL where we can use this map service in either ArcGIS or Esri Leaflet in our case. So I'm going to copy this, go back to our Hydroviewer.js script. We're going to create an l.esri.dynamic map layer. And if you went and if you filter through all this information, you can find that it is a dynamic map layer. And if you have any questions on how to use this, we can go to our Esri leaflet page, and under their API reference, they have instructions on how to use the l.esri.dynamic map layer constructor. And we can see that it takes just one argument. It's an object or a dictionary or JSON, and the one required element in that object is this URL option, and it provides us the string URL of the map service. So I'm going to create an object, give it a URL key, and the value that goes with it will be the URL that we pasted from, or copied rather, from the ArcGIS site. And just like with the OpenStreetMap layer, we need to do .add to our map object and save. Now when I come back to my web app, you should need to refresh, and then the GeoGlows layer is now visible and the base map is also visible. Now we can't animate this map through time, we can't click on the layer and get any information, so we'll worry about that in a future video. Our last step for this video is we're going to add some placeholders for the animation controls. So to do that, I'm going to need to create some HTML tags. The first thing that we'll want within our map controls div, this container where we're going to put all the controls, is we want a range slider that's going to let us animate the map forwards and backwards. And we're also going to want to label that. So we'll start with a label. For wants the ID of the input this is for. I'm going to call it date slider. And the text of the label can be map animation. And then I also need to create the inputs that this label is for. So the ID needs to match what I put in the for argument here. ID equals date slider. And to make it a slider rather than an input that you type text into, we change the type to range. And then I need to provide a minimum and maximum. For now, I'll just put in some placeholder values of 0 to 100. Next thing I need to add is a div where we're going to print out the current date that is represented by the map layer. So I'll make a div. I will say that the ID is date string, date dash string. And then I'll put in some placeholder text. Date string goes here. The next thing we're going to need is a series of buttons to control the animation. That'll be the back button, play, pause, go forward, go back, things like that. And so I'm going to wrap all of these buttons in another div so that they can be styled more easily. And since I'm going to apply some styling to all of these buttons, I'll need a class for this div. And I'll call it animation buttons. And then I can just create all my buttons with button tags. We'll start with the back button. And I'll say that the text visible on the button should be back. And I'll duplicate this 4 times. I'm going to also want a play button, stop, and a go forward button. And I'll change the text on all the buttons to match the IDs. All right, now we've got the slider, the range inputs, and its label. We have a div where we can print the text that contains the specific date being represented on the map, and we have all of our buttons to control it automatically. So let's save this and go back to our page. And now we've got all of our controls visible here on the bottom, but they're all hidden up in the far left corner. I would like these to be centered in the available space. So I want it to be centered both horizontally and vertically. In order to do that, I'm going to need to go back to CSS. And I'm going to style all the elements within the map controls. I'm going to choose to style all of this using the Flexbox capabilities. So I need to say display flex. I want the items to be aligned vertically and horizontally, so I need align items and justify contents to be center. And I don't want all of my items to be stacked horizontally, flexed along the row direction or the horizontal direction. I would like them to be stacked vertically, so that would be the column direction, flex direction column. Now I can save this and go back and see that my map controls are sitting neatly in the center of the available space. And that's everything that we're going to cover in this video. We've created a map, we added the GeoGlows stream layer to it, we created some controls. They don't do anything yet, but we've got the placeholders in, so that we can edit them in future videos. We created our HTML and all the static contents. In the next videos, we'll worry about adding events, what happens when you click on the map, and additional styling information and things like that.